Thank you guys for joining us once again today on our Life in Focus podcast. As we get ready for our devotion time today, the Lord speaks to us today out of Psalm chapter 92, particularly in verse 13 and 14. And He's really speaking to us about being fruitful in our lives no matter what season or of time we find ourselves in. He's particularly talking this morning to those who find themselves in their older age, in their latter years, and how sometimes we can feel unproductive in those years. We can feel like all of our energy and all of our time is drawing near and drawing short, and we're not as useful to God as we used to be. And in Psalm 92, he says this, beginning in verse 13 once again, "Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bring forth fruit in old age, and they shall flourish." Today the Lord speaks to us through that psalm, and basically the psalmist asserts that those who live godly lives will be as strong and healthy as cedar trees, he says in verse number 12. There are few who would not like to think of themselves as being that strong, but it is clear that the promise does not refer to one's physical body. But the writer goes on to say that even in old age, the godly will continue to grow and to flourish and live fruitful and prosperous lives. In reality, of course, for all of us is that, as we grow older, we physically seem to grow weaker. The psalmist is not denying that. But yet he is speaking here of that health and hardiness that matters most. And that is the prosperity of your soul, the increase in your faith, the increase in your devotion to the Lord. The fact is that one can be at the height of their physical health and still be withering away on the inside. And likewise, a person can find themselves declining in physical strength and yet still be growing and thriving in their spiritual life. So what makes the difference? That cedar-like soul that the psalmist speaks of is planted in the house of the Lord. That's important. That means the presence of God and the nourishment of His Word is lasting and wholesome substance to your soul today. So if you're feeling the physical effects and limitations of older age, God's got a word for you this morning. You may have convinced yourself that you are no longer useful or productive like you once were. But see, the reality is that God is not in need of your labors, maybe. Maybe what He is delighting in today is your worship, your gratitude, your submission. This is the fruit you can bear today. This is the fruit you can bear from a hospital bed. You can bear this fruit even if you're in immense pain. There is joy that you can have today just spending time in the presence of the Lord. See, it is in this season that you can get into the Word of God and dig deep into the Word of God, not to prepare a message for someone else, but to just spend time with your Father, the one who has brought you through years and years of productive faithfulness to Him. He's brought you through the valleys. He set you on the mountaintops. He's allowed you to see children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren grow. He's allowed you to prosper perhaps in ways you never thought you would. He's allowed you to be productive in the house of the Lord. Maybe you were a teacher. Maybe you were involved in the ministry in many different ways, and now you find yourself on the other side of that and can't do as much. Maybe God doesn't need you to do that anymore. But He does need you to spend time with Him in a spirit of thanksgiving, that while you could labor, you labored You were fruitful. You were productive. But the psalmist says your fruit will still keep going today. Your testimony to others is your faithfulness today to just be a child of the King. I want to thank each and every one of you this morning for joining us, but I want to say a special word to those who may find themselves in their older age. I want to thank you for your faithfulness to the Lord through all these generations, for all of the seed that you planted. They will not return void. God's kept a track of each and every one of them, and you may not have seen them all, but when you get to glory, God assures us He'll show you them all. So today you be safe, you be strong, and you be blessed. And you know that God still desires your fruit today of just spending time with Him. Lord's will, we'll see you back here again tomorrow. And until then, as always, have a great and wonderful day.